Hello and welcome. I'm the Jersey Connoisseur, and here we are at the start. And as we are less than a week away from the Premier League season at the time of me filming this, and I am ready and eager to put out my predictions for the 2022-23 Premier League season, of which promises to be a very exciting season, but it can also be looked upon as relatively predictable. But if you want to check out my review of my predictions from last season, you can check out my video in the I button above, for which I will start my predictions with AFC Bournemouth, a team that finished second in the championship last year and got promoted, and easily got promoted out of the championship, and while also being managed by Scott Parker. Bournemouth is in a dogfight to seek to stay in the Premier League for next oncoming season, as they really have not dabbled in the transfer market at the time of this recording, only having signed Ryan Fredericks on a free transfer and Joe Rothwell from Blackburn, which are not too shabby players, but what I do fear is the fact that they don't really have a consistent striker to lead them to staying up, with the likes of Dominic Solanke and Kiefer Moore being tasked with such an important job. But what I do believe is that they have a great midfield with Philip Billing and Jefferson Lerma that will definitely help control the midfield. My player to watch out for Bournemouth is their captain, at only 23, might I add, Lloyd Kelly, a center back, and he has really proven himself. I was impressed with him when he played in the Premier League a couple of years ago when Bournemouth were still in the Premier League. But he's really developed into a quality player, and one in which could potentially lead Bournemouth to staying in the Premier League. But I just feel like that their lack of consistency and lack of quality will really hinder them, and as a result, I believe they'll finish 19th. Now we'll go to my favorite club, and that is obviously Arsenal, and of whom I have not had the chance to rate their transfer signings this summer. But they went on a signing spree, getting the likes of, whether it be the youngster for the future Marquinhos, or a youngster for the present in Gabriel Jesus, or in Alexander Zinchenko from Manchester City, while also dipping their toe into acquiring a quality midfielder in Fabio Vieira, and also solidifying their goalkeeping spot in Matt Turner. It really looks like an all-around great squad that definitely has the potential to finish top four. And with Mikel Arteta really instilling discipline into the club, there's no saying how high they could finish. But I will keep my expectations relatively modest. There is also on the other side, looking at the fact that they did lose some players who could have been of use, such as Alexander Lacazette, or the fact that it's possible that Thomas Partey could be in hot water. Those definitely hold back the possibility for Arsenal to do well, but I think that another season of them getting chemistry and getting a chance to play with each other will really help their chances. And I know this might be a bit rich, but I believe that Arsenal will finish third in the Premier League this season, with my player to watch out for being Takahiro Tomiyasu, who I expected to even further his value this season after such a standout last season. While next we move on to Aston Villa, who had a inconsistent last season, having sacked their manager Dean Smith and in his place came Steven Gerrard, who in his time really came in and switched the mood for the villains, with acquiring Philippe Coutinho on loan and eventually now on a permanent basis. He looks to potentially refine his form that he had at Liverpool. While Aston Villa was also relatively busy with the transfers this summer, acquiring Boubacar Kamara from Marseille, a very solid signing, and in fact my player to watch out for Aston Villa, and Diego Carlos from Sevilla, definitely of whom will definitely solidify their defense that is in need of some retooling. But I think a season under a full season under Gerard really helped them, and it's possible Ollie Watkins might be able to refine his form as well. And I think therefore Aston Villa will finish ninth in the table. Next we have Brentford, and Brentford did a great job under Thomas Frank in staying up last season, and I was really impressed with a couple players, in particular Ivan Toney, who really solidified himself as a above average striker in the Premier League. But they will definitely have it tough this season, and they could face a sophomore slump, and of which was similar to what happened to Sheffield United a couple of years ago. My player to watch out for Brentford is Christian Nørgaard, who is the assistant captain for Brentford, and of whom will be will have to be invaluable for Brentford to stay up. And as a result, I will predict that Brentford will finish in 15th place. Next, we have Brighton and Hove Albion. And first of all, can I just say how amazing of a job Graham Potter has done with the Seagulls, and to the point where it is possible Brighton could be a top 10 team this year. And I think Graham Potter, and especially like Potter, I think he's kind of in a similar situation to Eddie Howe, in that Howe was a underrated manager, but he didn't really have the squad to back him up at Bournemouth. And I worry for Brighton, especially if they end up losing Cucurella, because they have a older squad mixed in with some youngsters who could potentially break out, such as Moises Caicedo, who is my player to watch out for. But their bench is really bleak, and I might be underrating them, but I don't trust the likes of Neil Maupay to get back to where he was a couple years ago. And they also haven't really done a great job in the transfer market in getting any top tier players, just really some players for the future, or potentially a player who could break out in Julio and Kizo. But losing Basuma and potentially losing Cucurella could really hurt them. And I think that they will end up finishing in 17th place. Next is Chelsea. And Chelsea has been very busy this summer, contrary to what to their transfer ban in the winter transfer window. They were finally able to make some much needed moves in this window, such as getting in Raheem Sterling. And it'll be interesting to see where Sterling fits in, and while also bringing back some guys on loan like Conor Gallagher. And I believe that it's almost confirmed that they will get and I believe it is almost confirmed that they will get Kalidou Koulibaly from Napoli, which is a crucial signing, as they need to replace the likes of Antonio Rudiger and Andreas Christensen, who left to Spain. And it's to be very important year for Chelsea and for Thomas Tuchel, as if they don't remain competitive, Tuchel may not survive the season. There's just, although with their new owners coming in, they might be a little more patient, but at the same time, it seems like they're not in the ready to win mode right now, as they're still kind of getting used to things with the new owners, and they getting a new, basically a couple new players in the starting 11 will take some time for them to get to adjust to chemistry, and therefore I think that they will suffer as a result, and I believe that they will end up finishing in 4th place. With my player to watch out for Chelsea being Reece James, who I think will continue to flourish at Chelsea and will vehemently deserve a spot in the starting 11 for England at the World Cup in December. Next, you have Crystal Palace. And Crystal Palace is a team I believe is on the rise. With them finishing 12th last season and giving Arsenal some really good games when they faced off. In particular, I was really impressed by Patrick Vieira's style of play. It seems that he's learned from the best and Arsene Wenger, and it has really translated well to his team. And I think they can even go further from there. Particularly, my player to watch out for Crystal Palace is Mark Gay, who deservedly earned a spot for England, deservedly earned a cap for England earlier this summer, and looks to even further his worth this year. They have an underrated defense. Their midfield is it could use some work, but bringing in likes of Czech Doucouré doesn't hurt, and potentially he might find himself into the starting 11. And it might be Eberechi Eze's time to shine as he gets to play alongside Wilfried Zaha. There's no saying how well Crystal Palace could do this year, and I think that they will find themselves increasing their rank this year, and I believe they'll finish in 10th place. Next up is Everton, and boy, where do I start? Everton had a horrendous season last year, and just barely avoiding relegation, as it looked like Rafa Benitez was a double agent and trying to get Everton relegated, only really surviving after a last-minute goal by Dominic Calvert-Lewin against Crystal Palace and the miraculous play of Richarlison, of whom is now on to Tottenham now, and is a big loss to overcome for the Toffees. And especially after losing an embarrassing match 4-0 to Minnesota United, it's really looking bleak for them. I do would like to say that my player to watch is Anthony Gordon, who could potentially offer some much needed help to the wing, but that may not be enough to stay up. And I just think that Everton's filled with a bunch of Premier League veterans that are the last legs of their career, particularly that being Dele Alli, who's really has had a lot of time at Tottenham, and the years have caught up to him. He's not the same player. While they do have some guys of quality like Alan and Jordan Pickford and Seamus Coleman, I don't really trust Frank Lampard to be the man at the helm. And I think this could be a absolute disastrous season for them. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think that Everton will finish in 20th place. Next, we have Fulham. And Fulham is one of those teams that every year you never know what to expect with them, with whether they're going to stay up, they're going to go down, or they're going to stay up, they're going to go down, are they going to come back up again? It's really frustrating. But this year, it seems like things could be finally have turned out well for them. And while I do have some why I am skeptical of Marco Silva as a manager, there have been times when he was at Watford where they were successful, and as possible he may not survive the season. I think he can keep the team grounded, and particularly with their signings of Marco Solomon from Shakhtar Donetsk and the crucial signing of Joao Palhinha from Sporting Lisbon, who will definitely solidify their midfield. There's no saying that they potentially could stay up, and while also adding on to their relatively underrated defense, and particularly my man to look out for Fulham is Anthony Robinson, who was a solidified starter for the United States, but who has really came into his own last year, and of whom it has potential to be uh, a top 10 left back in the league. But there is some worrying at the fact that Alexander Mitrovic is not prone to scoring a plethora of goals in the championship and then disappearing in the Premier League. And it'll be interesting to see if he can um, live up to the live up to the quality of the Premier League and finally show his worth. Well, only time will tell. But I think that this is the year Fulham will finally stay up in the Premier League, and therefore I believe that they will barely survive, and they will finish in 16th place. Next up is Leeds United, and Leeds United are in a similar situation to Everton and Fulham, which you never really know you never really know what to expect. They're honestly one of the more forgettable clubs in the Premier League, but they've definitely proven themselves to be more than that. And I think in some ways, Marcelo Bielsa, as good of a manager as he was, he kind of held back the creativity for most of the players. And obviously, as good as players as good of a player as Rafinha was, he was often held limited from doing his thing and really being a force to be reckoned with. But now with Jesse Marsch in charge, Marsch is definitely not as competent as Bielsa, but he offers a more fluid style of play that the players hopefully can adjust to. And he's brought in a couple players too that he's familiar with that can potentially play his style of play, such as Brendan Aronson, Tyler Adams, Rasmus Christensen, Mark Roca, and most importantly, Luis Sinisterra from Feyenoord. And while also acquiring youngster Darko Giabi in the deal for Calvin Phillips to Manchester City. And I think in that way, with most of the players getting accustomed to themselves and getting older, and this being their third year in the Premier League, they know what it takes to win. I think that there's a lot of pride that goes into wearing such a playing at such a prestigious club, and I think that will really inspire them um, to play well. And I think they have all the tools that it takes to be a competitive club. But I do believe that they're still a couple years away. But I think that they're going in the right direction, and therefore I think they will finish in 14th place. And as we approach the halfway mark of my Premier League predictions, next up we have Leicester City, of whom mightily struggled this year, but were really hindered by mid-season injury to Jamie Vardy, their best player, and it kind of made them tumble down the standings and to a place where they probably they shouldn't have been. As I believe that there's still a top 10 quality side. However, they have really not done anything in the transfer market at the moment. Now, I do expect that they might sign a goalkeeper in the near the end of the transfer window with Kasper Schmeichel on his way to Nice, or potentially they may just go roll with one of Danny Ward or Daniel Iverson, which wouldn't be bad in its own right. I believe that their defense is one of the best in the Premier League, especially with Wesley Fofana coming back, assuming he stays at Leicester, and James Justin as well, or even Luke Thomas. They have a really quality defense, and their midfield is no joke either. Assuming Yuri Tielemans stays along with Wilfred Ndidi and James Madison, it's really high quality. I do worry about Brendan Rodgers maybe getting inflated ego after a couple years ago when they finished in 5th, but they're a really decent side, and I think they can really refine their form. And particularly, my player to watch out for Leicester is the aforementioned James Justin as he comes back from injury. He really impressed me a couple years ago, and I think he even has more to grow as he stays looks to stay healthy. But overall, I think that Leicester City will finish in 7th place this year. Next, we have Liverpool, and the Reds came also close to catching up to Man City at the end of the Premier League season last year, but they did come up short by 1 point. that being there they did suffer a major loss in Sadio Mane this past summer to Bayern Munich. But with Darwin Nunez, who is my player to watch out for Liverpool coming in, there's a lot of high expectations for him to perform, and I think he has shown that he is the real deal, and it'll be interesting to see where he fits in with the Reds. I I think they have the best attack in the undeniably the best attack in the Premier League, and their midfield is very top class too. I do worry the fact that Jordan Henderson's kind of getting older and Thiago has not really shown to be as advertised. Their midfield might take a might be the death of them, but there you can't go wrong with their defense either. And I think that they will have a tremendous year if with everything that they've gone through, and I think that might they have the winning mentality. They are at a disadvantage because obviously having to play in the Champions League, they played a lot last year. They might be tired, and as a result, that might affect their play. And with that in mind, it's I think that actually might hurt them. I think the fact that they played so much last year and their players are so involved in the international world might catch up with them. And I think that this season, as hopeful as I was, I think this season may not live up to the hype. And I think that they will end up finishing in 5th place. Next, we have Manchester City, the defending champions for past 2 years now. What else can I say? They are dominant in every position. They really have little to no flaws, with them even bringing in one of the best strikers in the world, Erling Haaland. It's crazy how they're able to get away with it, and not even mentioning whom could potentially be an underrated part of their piece of their puzzle in Julian Alvarez, who is my player to watch out for uh, uh, Manchester City. They really are a top-notch side, and you can't deny that. Pep Guardiola has done an excellent job. Manchester City is the only team that could lose a player like Raheem Sterling and potentially still be fine without him. And I think in this instance, Sterling, as great a player as he was kind of a liability in some ways. And while I do fear about the quality of Jack Grealish and how he did not have a great season at all last season, is potential he could rebound, and if he does, as he has proven himself in the preseason and his getting acquiring chemistry with Haaland, that might be an unstoppable duo. And that's not even mentioning Riyad Mahrez and Bernardo Silva. And I just you can't go wrong with City. And as basic as a prediction as this is, I am going to predict that Manchester City will win the 2022-23 Premier League. Next, we have Manchester United, and with United, they are in shambles at the moment. A very disappointing season last year. It will really be hard for them to rebound. But with a new manager and Eric Ten Hag and some new players to as well, they do offer some optimism and in increasing their standing. Although I don't suspect it will be by that much, as they're still in a relatively rebuilding phase, and particularly with the turmoil of Cristiano Ronaldo at the moment. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a happy ending to that relationship, and I think that Ronaldo will potentially move on. If he does play, I do worry how the dynamic will be for United, and I think that could really cost them. I think they have a very youthful squad that could potentially could surprise some major teams. But I don't think they're there at the moment. I think that they're still a couple years away. And even my player to watch out for at United, and whom is relatively new, in Tyrell Malacia, could make some waves. It's not, it might not be enough for them to get them in the top four position. They have the benefit of playing the Europa League, which is not a mighty league competition, so they can put all their cards on the Premier League table. And I think in that case, I really love where they're going with signing Lisandro Martinez and Christian Eriksen, and potentially Jonathan David. But I think that they're still a year away from really challenging for the title, and I think they will finish in sixth place. Next, we have Newcastle United, and Newcastle United really came out of nowhere last season, and was a incredible turnaround by Eddie Howe, a great job, and the sky's the limit for the Magpies and what they eventually could accomplish this year with all the onslaught of money that is coming into their club, and particularly moves that they made this summer, such as acquiring Sven Botman from Lille and Nick Pope from Burnley, and then also acquiring Matt Target permanently on loan. They are subtle moves that potentially could slightly increase their quality. And they also who's say that they don't make another big move at the January transfer window as well, which they did in last year. And I think that they have some very quality players such as Bruno Gomes, who is my player to watch out for Newcastle. And if they can really get it all together, there's no saying how well they could do. I think though they are slightly overrated, but I think that they are a legitimate force to be reckoned with, and therefore I believe that they will finish eighth place, which would be an improvement over where they finished last year in 11th. Now, as we're three-quarters of the way through our Premier League predictions, we get to Nottingham Forest, who are in the Premier League for the first time in over 20 years, and full credit to the club, such a legendary club that still have more Champions Leagues than Manchester City, and definitely will take advantage of that when they play them. But they are in a interesting predicament, to say the least, as manager Steve Cooper has really taken over the club and put them and taken them to heights that they never really dreamed of. And I definitely never was expected they would qualify, even after getting to the final of the playoff. But they are a very underrated side. They don't have the best players in the world, but they really try hard. They didn't. Interestingly enough, most of their players that they had playing the playoff were on loan, and so most of the squad is almost entirely new, with the likes of Dean Henderson and Jesse Lingard and Taiwo Wonye, former Liverpool striker, and then Niakate also playing a center back, and then as well Nico Williams. They made a lot of moves, and typically when teams do that, such as Fulham, they get burned in the end because they don't really have a lot of chemistry to work with. They don't really use their money wisely, and I think that Nottingham's investment in most of their players has been questionable, and therefore I believe that it might come back to hurt them. And as a result, I believe that they will finish in 18th place. So we have Southampton, and as you can see, I'm wearing a Southampton jersey, so this might affect I might be biased in wearing this, making this prediction, but Southampton came in a relatively decent position last year in 15th, and they look to surpass that this year. And what helps is the fact that they really haven't lost anyone of great value, while also bringing in some players of whom potentially could mightily help their squad. And particularly my player to watch out for in Southampton is Joe Aribo, who came over from Rangers in Scotland. He's a very high quality player that and it'll be interesting to see where Southampton plays him in the lineup, because the fact that they have James Ward-Prowse and Oriol Romeo, but combination of the likes of Kyle Walker-Peters and Jan Bednarek and Mohamed Salisu, they have and then not even mentioning Che Adams, they have potential to really surprise some teams this year. And I think that Ralph Hasenhüttl has done a good job. Now he might suffer the fall if Southampton is not able to live up to expectations, but so far so good. So far they've really had a solid transfer window, getting in a lot of youngsters such as Romeo Lavia from Manchester City. It's looking promising for the Saints, and which is particularly encouraging. And I think that will really help them surpass their position from last year. And I predict that they will finish in 13th place. Next, we have Tottenham Hotspur, and it's hard as an Arsenal fan to talk positively about Tottenham, but I am honestly flabbergasted at how well they have done in the transfer window this summer. Whether it was bringing in Ivan Perisic from Inter, or Basuma, or Richarlison, or Jed Spence from Nottingham Forest, along they are legitimate top 4 team in my opinion. And Antonio Conte has proven that he's able to take teams that looks similarly to this, and I noticed firsthand what he did at Inter and how he led them to win the Serie A. This is a very solid team, and I think that they've definitely done a great job in building this team to secure Harry Kane's services, as he was such an important player to them that they need a quality squad to back them up. And whether the front three with him and Hunman's son and potentially Dejan Kulusevski, who is my player to watch out for, there is no saying how well they could do. They could honestly win the Premier League. They're that good. It's scary to be honest. And but I think that they deserve their day in the sun. I think that they've done a great job in building a incredibly talented team that could definitely challenge for the title. And as a result, I believe that Tottenham will finish in second place. And now we're down to the final 2 clubs, which I will begin with West Ham United. And West Ham had an incredibly successful year last year, not so much in the Premier League, but in the Europa League, where they made it to the semifinals of the Europa League, only losing to Eintracht Frankfurt on the second leg. But they are a relatively streaky team that could potentially surprise, but of whom are all, like United, kind of in a transition phase. There always are rumors of Declan Rice leaving, and there's potential that a deal could happen before the transfer window, which would mightily deplete them. While as well, their defense is, and I give them credit, they're able to get the most out of their defense, and getting in Aguerd from Rennes could potentially solidify that. While also at striker, they had literally a couple days ago signed Scamacca, who was a highly coveted player, striker this transfer window from Sassuolo. So that's a huge signing. Well, also acquiring Areola's services permanently. But I think similar to Liverpool, their output last season might come back to hurt them, and they might suffer as a result. While my player to watch out for at West Ham is Pablo Fornals, and I believe he can have a really solid season. I just don't know where the Hammers can go after a couple of great years. I feel like they're kind of gonna stagnate and suffer for having to play in potentially play in the Europa Conference League. Might be the end of them. but I think they'll still be competitive, and I believe that they'll finish in 11th place. And lastly, we have Wolverhampton Wanderers. What a mouthful! And who have been in the Premier League for a long time now since getting promoted a few years ago, and have seemed to really fluctuate in their placement in the Premier League, usually being in the top 10. In particular, they invested a lot into acquiring the services of Wan Hee Chan permanently from RB Leipzig, as well as Nathan Collins from Burnley. But they don't really have the depth to remain competitive with the rest of the top 10 teams. I think that might be the downfall of them. The fact that uh, they consistently played Fabio Silva last season, and while granted he didn't receive a lot of game time, uh, and the fact that he never scored a goal is a testament to the fact that they can't find players to score aside from Raul Jimenez and Ruben Neves, who has been rumored to potentially leave Wolves. It's really concerning for them, but I think they will be able to make it work. They have a very solid defense, and it's possible that Daniel Podence will be able to step up and be a factor in their attack alongside Chan and Jimenez. But I don't really have huge expectations for Wolves this year. I think they'll do enough to stay up comfortably, but they could potentially sway back and forth between the relegation zone early on. And if they don't have a strong start from Jimenez or opponents, that could be the end of them. It easily could be the end of them, but I think that they will do enough to stay up, and I believe that they will comfortably finish in 12th place. There you have it. These are my Premier League predictions for 2022-23 season. I might be entirely wrong, and it will be humiliating to look back upon these predictions at the end of the season. But it's all for fun, and I hope that I am correct in at least one prediction. That's all I really care about. So anyway, leave a like, subscribe if you enjoy my reaction, and let's get the season underway as it will begin on the 5th of August. Arrivederci.